Welcome back to Game Talk from the Bench. I'm your host, Drew Barreto, and today I'm here with my co-host, my uncle Andrew Barreto. And you're probably wondering why can't we see him? Well, he's having technical difficulty issues, so you won't be able to see him this episode. But I'll put something up for
It's
uh
probably
for
a
him.
good thing.
Oh, well, there he is. But
It's
yeah.
probably a good thing, though.
But today we lot to cover. NFL free agency started Monday, and deals going through the roofs. Teams are looking completely different. Everything is just trades are getting rescinded. We'll talk about that. In the NBA, players just dropped 83 points. That was news that just broke like 5 minutes ago. We'll talk about him. We'll give you a weekly standings update. In the MLB, not much news. Just the World Baseball Classic is going on. The final bracket, the final playoff positions are getting reformed. Team USA is currently down, so we'll discuss that. And to end off this episode, we might talk a little Formula One. But to start us off, NFL free agency Monday or Sunday, I guess started Monday, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, things don't get finalized till tomorrow. Today is Tuesday, the 10th. Wednesday, the 11th is at 4 p.m. Eastern when everything gets finalized. And so, but a lot of teams making moves, and we're gonna kind of go through every team and their big moves. So for the Bills, they traded for DJ Moore. They sent a fifth round pick and a second round pick. Oh no, it says no. They required a fifth and DJ Moore in exchange for a 2026 second round pick. So the Bills finding ways to get Josh Allen more weapons. That was their big move. They also re-signed Dawson Knox as well. Although I don't know if I would have necessarily kept Knox. You do have Dalton Kincaid. However, they're trying to keep weapons surrounding Josh Allen because that's obviously the big question every year. Josh Allen doesn't have enough weapons and that he's the offense on his own. Hello?
Yeah, no,
Oh, sorry.
that's the story there is they yeah, keep those weapons and that DJ Moore trading for DJ Moore just tells you that they're trying to load up and they're not putting all the blame on Josh Allen, even though if I remember that last game, he had quite a bit of turnovers in that last low. You got an MVP type quarterback. Yeah, that's what you need to do to uh, make yourself relevant in the league still. So they're going still all in with Josh Allen and just let's try to get him some help.
Yeah, no, they definitely gotta, try to obviously, yeah, like you said, he had a lot of turnovers in that game against the Broncos, trying to keep him surrounded with weapons. So that's what they go and did. That's all they've really done massively. Moving on to the Dolphins, they made some big moves. Released Tua Tagovailoa. They go out and with new head coach, Jeff Haley from the former defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. They go out and they sign Malik Willis to a 3 year, $67.5 million deal with 45 million guaranteed. Now, Malik Willis was great coming off the bench or was a great backup for Jordan Love in Green Bay. When he played, he looked excellent. And he earned himself a big payday and the starting role in Miami. So we'll see how Miami is looking with the new quarterback. Obviously, Tua had concussion concussion issues and wasn't playing that great. And so Dolphins move on. They eat a lot of dead cap though because of his contract. But they get themselves a young quarterback who's looking to prove himself after once being the starter for the Titans. Goes to be a backup, now looking to be a starter once again.
Yeah, and that his first shot there, like you mentioned with the Titans, that didn't last too long. It seemed like ever since even Ryan, going back to even Ryan Tannehill, they were just always looking for a different option at quarterback. And yeah, this is a good opportunity for Malik Williams to kind of like, a lot of people are doubting him as a quarterback. So here's another opportunity, big money, 45 million guaranteed, and starting role with the Dolphins. So we'll see. Yep, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and then the Jets made a lot of moves. We're not really going to go deep into it, but I'll name a couple. The Raiders traded Geno Smith back to the Jets. They traded Geno in the seventh in exchange for 2026 sixth round pick. They did that. We also talked about their franchise tag, Brees Hall. They traded for Devondre Sweat. They signed Demario Davis, Nahshon Wright. They traded for Minka Fitzpatrick. I mean, they're doing a lot of things to make themselves try to get the number one pick because they still don't look that great. And and so that's for the Jets. Oh my goodness, I almost skipped over the Patriots. We'll talk about the Patriots. Patriots Super Bowl, right? They were just in the Super Bowl. One thing that killed them offensive line. So what did they go out and do? They signed Elijah Very Tucker to a 3-year, $42 million deal. Get themselves some O line. They also signed wide receiver Romeo Dobbs after releasing, or not re-signed, or they released. Yes, they released Stephon Diggs. So they go out and sign Romeo Dobbs to a 4-year, $70 million contract. And they also get some defensive line help by signing Jamont Jones to a 3-year, $40 million deal. And so the former, not the, I was going to say the former NFL champs, geez, the Patriots, who were just in the Super Bowl, looking to add as they go on a run again in hopes that this year or in the future they win the game this time. And so they go out and they make three big moves. Obviously, free agency isn't over, but so far they've made some pretty solid moves to keep themselves contending.
The NFL must be doing good. 4 years, 68 million. For Romeo Dobbs, like, are they getting? They must be getting some of that fantasy draft kings, draft duel, whatever it's called. That gambling stuff that we see every 2 to 3 times a commercial. That's some big money there. Honestly, I'm not too familiar with his game, but it just seems like a lot of money to be putting out there, and I don't know if that's almost like a guarantee type thing there, like you're going to get a return on that investment. So, uh, it just people signing, like, right? Everyone's signing these days that all teams have been busy signing free agents and trying to better their team. So yeah, it looks like Patriots. I think they got themselves a pretty solid receiver after, like you said, letting go of Diggs.
Yes, and now in AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens haven't done much. They've lost a lot. They lost both two tight ends in Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kohler. They also lost Jamon Jones. He went to the Patriots. However, they re-signed Tyler Huntley. They signed John Simpson to a 3-year, $30 million deal to protect Lamar. They lost Tyler Linderbaum. We'll talk about him. And they traded for Maxx Crosby. Now, that Maxx Crosby trade does get a little. Well, something big happens to the Maxx Crosby trade, but we'll talk about that when we get to the Raiders. As of for Cincy, they re-signed Dalton Risner. They signed Boye Mafe to a 3-year, $60 million deal. And they signed as well safety Brian Cook to a 3-year, $40 million deal. Like you said, these teams must be making, the NFL must be doing good because these guys, they're not bad players. Don't get me wrong, great players, but these guys are getting
Yeah,
paid.
getting paid, man. Times have changed, right? I mean, you shell out that kind of money, you're thinking you get this, you got this Pro Bowl player that you're acquiring here, but it's probably not their fault. I don't know them. It's just not a big deal. But I just, when you start throwing out these big numbers, you're like, okay, well, expect the safety position, for Brian Cook to be, solidified. So, it's just, we'll see how that return is. That's just pretty much like what it boils down to. See if there was some good decisions by the GMs and coaches.
As for the Browns, they're trying to protect. They built an offensive line. They're trying to protect either Shadur or Deshaun, whoever's going to be the starting quarterback. We talked about it. They traded for Titus Howard last week. They re-signed Tevin Jenkins. They signed Zion Johnson to a 3-year, $50 million deal, which I thought was insane overpay. He was not that good for the Chargers. Then they signed Elton Jenkins to a 2-year, $24 million deal. I mean, they have gotten a tackle, a guard, and another guy who could play guard and tackle in Elton Jenkins. And so they were building their line to make sure that their QB of the future is protected. And I think that's a really good thing. Now, they haven't done much defensively. All they did was sign Quincy Williams, the linebacker, to a 2-year, $13 million deal. But like with the Deshaun Watson contract on their hands, it's kind of hard to make much signings, but I like what they've done so far.
That guy's still hanging in, huh? Deshaun Watson. I thought it would be, especially after they had they drafted 2 quarterbacks and had Flacco still on the roster, and Deshaun Watson was there because of his contract. But I thought he would still definitely be let go. I don't know all the details of his, the kind of deal that he worked out, but yeah, no, I agree. They're hopefully. That was been a big problem is giving the quarterback time in Cleveland. So yeah, these you know working on the lines, good thing to start.
Yeah, no, and And like I said, got to protect their quarterback. And for the Steelers, they made lots of moves. They signed Rico Dowdle to a 2-year, $12.5 million deal because Kenneth Gainwell goes elsewhere. They traded for Michael Pittman with the Colts, and he signed a 3-year, $59 million deal. They pay a receiver with DK. They signed Cameron Hayward a new 2-year deal. They also signed Jamel Dean to a 3-year, $36 million deal, which I think is a steal for them at the cornerback position. And they re-signed Asante Samuel. So the Steelers doing a little bit of everything, um, doing a little bit of everything to solidify both sides of the ball. Obviously, they were a playoff team last year. Still need a quarterback, however. So that's the big question mark for the Steelers. We talked about it last week. Could it be Aaron Rodgers? Could it be someone in the
Yeah.
draft? Could it be Will Howard? We don't know. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. But so far, they've done moves on both sides of the ball. I think they made some improvements to the team, but it's all going to come down to who's behind the center.
Yeah, who's going to lead them in 2026? I guess they could go ahead and continue to wait for Rodgers if there's nothing better out there. Which in some cases, yeah, it doesn't seem like there might be. So I don't know the whole quarterback class that's still out there, through free agency or who hasn't been signed yet. But yeah, no, making good moves, the Steelers.
Yeah, moving on to the AFC South. We have the Texans. We talked about it. They acquired David Montgomery last week. They let go of Joe Mixon. They say, "Hey, we got a new running back. We don't need you." They signed
Mhm.
Dalton Schultz, Trent Brown to 1-year extensions. They also signed Neil Hunter to a 1-year, $40 million extension that includes $30 million signing bonus. They also signed offensive tackle Braden Smith from the Colts to a 2-year deal, worth up to $25 million deal. He'll be the right tackle to protect C.J. Stroud. Obviously, they were a great team last year defensively. They were one of the best. It was either them or the Seahawks had the best defense. However, C.J. Stroud did not show up for them in the playoffs and was ultimately the reason they didn't win. And so, look again, more safety moves. They signed safety Reed Blankenship, the former Eagle, to a 3-year, $24 million deal. So the Texans making moves on both sides of the ball to guarantee, not to guarantee, but to continue to be competing. Like I said, last year they had the defense. Offensively, they were good, dealt with some injuries, but CJ Stroud was ultimately their biggest reason that they didn't advance in the playoffs. So, like last season, this year will depend on how CJ Stroud plays.
Yeah, and hopefully what the maturity part, get the little experience in there. He's had, relatively successful beginning of his career here, and so now Houston's still, adding to that already, top-notch defense. I think with Blankenship and Robinson and the other guys that they've been signing. So yeah, I still think they're going to be contender there, Super Bowl contender, like kind of like they were last year. And but like you said, it all boils down to the quarterback play, and play at the right time, and I like the David Montgomery signing for them too. I think that's a step up from what they had last year, and yeah, I'm pretty sure they're excited in Houston.
Yes, and in Indianapolis, we talked about Daniel Jones. He received the transition tag, which is a 1-year, $37.8 million deal. Gives him the right to match any offer sheet submitted by another team. They were still going to continue negotiations. However, the other big deal they made, Alec Pierce, their free agent wide receiver, big name going around. Obviously, his stats, when you look at his stats, it doesn't look anything great, but he's a big name in the offseason. And they re-signed him to a big contract, 4 years, 114 million. That includes 84 million guaranteed, with 60 million fully guaranteed at signing. I think that's a huge payday for Alec Pierce. Do I think he deserves it? From what we've seen so far, obviously last year he was phenomenal, but I don't think so. I don't think he deserved over 100 million. If he would have got 80, I thought that would have been great value. But for 114 million on 4 years, I do not think he was worth the value. However, Colts got the money, they ended up spending it, and they keep their homegrown talent.
Yeah, good for him. I think they just didn't want to see him walk. Somebody else um, maybe they feared that somebody else was going to shell that money out for him, and so yeah, a lot of cash there. So but Daniel Jones has got his receiver, and see if they could build off of that. that year that they had last year, and his health is everything, right? So as long as Daniel Jones is back in action, and we'll see how the Colts end up.
For the Jaguars, they made a lot of tiny moves. We're probably not going to talk about them because, to be honest, don't even know any of these guys. To the Titans, they made a lot of moves. Obviously, new head coach Robert Saleh, new offensive coordinator, and Brian Dable. What do they do? They go out and get Wan'Dale Robinson, former Giants receiver, signed him to a 4 year, $78 million contract. He was amazing last year. They signed offensive guard Cordell Volson to a 1 year, $2.5 million deal. They traded for Jermaine Johnson when they sent Tavondre Sweat to the Jets. They signed defensive lineman John Franklin Myers to a 3 year, $63 million deal. Signed quarterback Alontae Taylor to a 3 year deal worth $60 million. So, doing things on both sides of the ball. Young team, we're one of the worst teams in the league. They just have their second year quarterback in Cam Ward. New head coach Robert Saleh solidifying his defensive line like he had in San Francisco, like what the team is doing. They're doing the right moves. Do I think they're the best offseason? No, but it's definitely a step up to what they've had in the past, trying to compete. They're in a division where they have a chance to compete. The Colts currently don't really have a quarterback, or they do, but he's injured. We don't know how CJ Stroud is going to play. The Titans, yes, they were the worst team. Jacksonville's lost a lot of people. And so the Titans could do something special. It's just a matter of how the draft goes. But I like what they're doing.
Yeah, and they, one of the worst teams in the league. They have a lot to do here, right? A lot of needs. So it looks like they're a little signing everywhere and all the needs. So I'm sure it's they're happy with acquiring these types of players that are going to help them get better and compete in that South.
Yeah, moving on and moving on to the AFC West, the Denver Broncos, they haven't done much. They let go of Dre Greenlaw, right? They signed him to a multi-year deal last year. Played 1 year, was injured, didn't really play much. They let him go. They re-signed Alex Singleton to a 2 year deal worth up to 15 million, and then they also re-signed J.K. Dobbins to a 2 year deal worth 20 million. That's all really what they've done. With Bo Nix obviously getting injured, didn't play in that AFC Championship, was really tough on them. But they haven't made much moves. They had a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and right now they're not looking. Doesn't look like they're doing much to go try to go back.
Yeah, I think maybe they just felt real good about their team and that injury there. Um, Kind of obviously set them back from reaching their goal of the Super Bowl, and now they're just trying to retain some players that they have there that have contract issues, and and take that on to the 2026 year and see how they go against the other people in the AFC West, the other teams.
And for the Chiefs, they didn't make the playoffs last season. Down year, Mahomes out with the ACL tear. Travis Kelce wasn't playing that great. They re-signed him to a 1 year deal. However, Seattle lost the Super Bowl MVP because the Kansas City Chiefs signed Kenneth Walker to a 3 year deal worth up to $45 million. That is huge for them. I mean, like I said, when he took over in the playoffs on his own, he was unstoppable. Now, well, does Kansas City have the same offensive line as Seattle does? No. But will he probably have good production? Yes, because that's the type of running back he is. And we talked about it earlier, they lost their safety in Brian Cook. So what do? They go out and sign safety Aloha Gilman from the Ravens on a 3 year, $24 million deal to fill in that position. So the Chiefs, they're doing they building some gaps. They lost Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco goes to Detroit. He'll be the second back to Jahmyr Gibbs. And so they fill in some voids with phenomenal talent and Kenneth Walker, and then Aloha Gilman, who's an underrated safety. So still, it's all they're gonna be with Mahomes coming off an ACL, an old Chris Jones, and an old Travis Kelce. So it we'll see. We'll see how the Chiefs do this year. I don't know. We're most likely gonna hopefully expect the same thing as last year, but we'll see.
Well, you can thank Taylor Swift for Travis Kelsey coming back. He discussed his what he's going to do with his career with her, and she said go one more year for 12 million. And when you have guys like Mahomes and Kelsey, I mean, I know they're older. We always talk about that. They're older. They're not playing at the highest level. But I still think with these additions, they're going to end up, competing. They're going to end up, again, health is everything. So if those guys could all stay healthy and play a majority of the year at least, and I mean they could be right up there with the Broncos, competing for that AFC West.
Yes, yes, they can. And moving on to the Raiders, who have had a really good offseason, arguably the best offseason. They go out and they sign Tyler Linderbaum. So they traded Maxx Crosby, right? They freed up a lot of money. So they go out and sign Tyler Linderbaum for a 3-year, $81 million deal. People are saying it's an overpay. He's 25 years old and a top two center in the league. You have a rookie quarterback coming in. You need to protect him. They go out and do that. They signed him. They signed wide receiver Jalen Nailor to a 3-year, $35 million deal. Now he isn't a star name, but he's a guy that can score touchdowns and receive the back shoulder pass, which Mendoza loves to throw. They also, like I said, they traded Maxx Crosby, so they go out and they're planning on signing Quiddy paid a deal worth up to $16 million. Now he's not Maxx Crosby, but he's a good run stopper. Has put up eight sack seasons, and so that's just a player to kind of fill the void. Now a struggle for the Raiders in the past five plus seasons, linebackers. So what do? They go out and sign 25-year-old Nakobe Dean to a 3-year, $36 million deal. I thought phenomenal. That's great. Love it. What else they do right after that? They signed Quay Walker for a 3-year, $40.5 million deal. Now, Quay Walker was picked by the Packers, but the pick that the Raiders traded for Devontae Adams. So full circle moment for that pick. He ends up just coming right back, and essentially, Raiders got Devontae for I guess one first round pick or for a second round pick. And then they go out. They traded. We talked about it, they trade, or we have maybe we did talk about it, but they traded for Teron Johnson with the Bills for a 6th round pick, and they re-signed Eric Stokes on a 3-year, $30 million deal. They are doing great. They look like they're a winner of the offseason. However, things get interesting. They traded Maxx Crosby, but earlier today, his trade was rescinded. The Ravens backed out of his trade because of a failed physical. So Maxx Crosby is a member of the Las Vegas Raiders, and his contract is back on their books. So it makes things really interesting. I've seen two different sides. I've seen they can still afford all the free agents. They can't afford all the free agents. I'm pretty sure that they're still able to make all these signings. But if they have all these signings and they have Maxx Crosby, the Raiders become a pretty good team. With a rookie quarterback next year, Raiders could be a very intriguing team as of next season.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think of that. I just kind of honestly just saw that not too long ago that Ravens backed out of the trade. So they still do, like you said, have that contract, and they signed all these guys to huge money. I mean, they were just busy. It looks like the Raiders were doing their homework, and as soon as they got the okay to start signing people, they just were sign them, sign them, sign them, right? Hey, they even got a Matt Gay too to a 1-year contract, a kicker. Huh? I didn't. Yeah,
Yes.
they're all over. They got defense. Obviously the huge big drive with the big signing, which I like as well. Somebody you saw all those other names who were getting big money. Uh, um, you need to shell it out for the center for that line. He's a young guy, 4 5-time Pro Bowler already of his career. Obviously, line was an issue. It's been an issue for the longest time, and this is the right steps in the right direction. So as far as all that money that's being thrown around, well, they have to consult with some. Don't ask me. I don't know how they make it all work, but that's why they pay those accountants or whoever they're gonna get a hold of to see how we can make this work. But they are looking good if all goes well.
Yes. As for the Chargers, we're gonna try to keep going through these. They signed Charlie Kohler, the tight end, offensive tackle. They signed Trevor Penning. They signed guard Cole Strange, and obviously center Tyler Biadasz. They tried to shore up the line for Justin Herbert. I do think they could have done a better job though. However, in NFC East, the Cowboys. We talked about George Pickens. We talked about Javonte Williams. They also traded for Rashawn Gary with the Packers in exchange for a 2027 4th-round pick, and that's about all they did. They also paid a second-round tender on Brandon Aubrey. For the Giants, they made some moves. They signed Isaiah Likely to a 3-year, $40 million deal. They signed Tremaine Edmonds to a 3-year, $36 million deal. as well as they just signed Patrick Ricard, making him the highest paid fullback I want to say in history, and then they re-signed Jermaine Illuminor. So they're doing some moves for Jackson Dart, and they let go of Bobby Okereke, so they replaced him with Tremaine Edmonds. I like what they're doing. Like I said, new head coach John Harbaugh, bring in some familiar guys, and they're just they're in a tough division.
Yeah, he's got his work cut out for him, but he seems like some familiar names that he's bringing to New York, and I would expect them to be, um, once everybody's again healthy, um, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo and those guys, and mixed in with the veterans that are being signed for them um, to cause some noise over there in the East.
Yeah, as for the Eagles, they haven't done much. They signed the defensive tackle Jordan Davis to a 3-year, $78 million contract extension. They also took Seattle's corner Tariq Woolen to a 1-year deal with a maximum value of $15 million. That's all they've done. Commanders, however, they've made some moves. They signed Laremy Tunsil to a 2-year, $60 million extension. They re-signed Traylon Burks to a 1-year deal. They signed Nick Alacrity to a new 2-year deal, as well as they signed Odafe Owe to a 4-year, $100 million deal. Big from them. He comes from the Chargers. I thought I thought that was a huge payday for him. They also signed defensive tackle Tim Settle to a 3-year, $24 million deal, cornerback Meek Robertson to a 2-year, $16 million deal, and linebacker Leo Chenal to a 3-year, $24 million deal. So another team, Commanders, weren't good last year. Obviously, Jaden Daniels didn't play much, doing things on both sides of the ball. I like it. They're trying to stay young. They're trying to keep him protected, and they're trying to get back to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, and they have like a lot of these teams, a lot of work to do. You got to get your leader back in the fold, and but yeah, they're addressing a lot of these areas where they needed some help here, and looks like they got Jake Moody's back on 1 year too, so he's still kicking in the league.
And in the NFC North, the Bears, they made some move. They re-signed Braxton Jones. They acquired Garrett Bradbury, the center, from the New England Patriots after Drew Dalman retired. They're signing Neville Gilmore or Gallimore to a 2-year, $12 million contract. They signed Devin Bush to a 3-year, $30 million deal, and safety Kobe Bryant from the Seahawks for a 3-year, $40 million deal. Winning the Super Bowl will cost you a lot, but Bears were just close, super close to beating the Rams to go to the NFC Championship game. However, they fell short, making some moves to try to get past the hump. As for the Lions, we talked about all the moves. Isaiah Pacheco signed with them. Drew Scruggs, they traded for him. And for the Packers, same thing. They haven't really done much. They lost Romeo Dobbs. They did trade for Zaire Franklin, the linebacker, because they did let go, or they didn't let go, but they did not re-sign Quay Walker. As for the Vikings, they also haven't done much. They only re-signed Eric Wilson to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal, and that's all they've done. As for the NFC South, Falcons, Tua Tagovailoa, released by the Miami, is signing a 1-year deal on bet minimum to go to Atlanta. They're also signing wide receiver Jahan Dotson to a 2-year, $15 million deal. We talked about Kyle Pitts, got the franchise tag. Tua looks to be the starter. Obviously, Michael Penix coming off the ACL injury. We'll see how that goes. But two lefties in Atlanta. It's gonna be interesting. Who's the starting quarterback and if they perform.
Yeah, I mean it looks like rebuilding there. So yeah, we'll see if there's a little quarterback competition there once Penix and Tua get together.
And for the Panthers, they've signed out some money. Jalen Phillips, 4 years, $120 million. I thought that was massive overpay. Devin Lloyd signed a 3-year, $45 million deal, which I thought was great value, and they re-signed Isaiah Simmons. Saints, they signed Travis Etienne to a 4-year, $52 million deal. They get the future running back. Puts Alvin Kamara's future in New Orleans at question. They signed guard David Edwards to a deal that will pay him up to $15 million per season. They also signed linebacker Caden Ellis to a 3-year, $33 million deal. The Bucks, they signed Kenneth Gainwell to a 2-year, $14 million contract, and linebacker Alex Anzalone to a 2-year, $17 million contract. In the NFC West, Cardinals, they've done a lot. They signed Gardner Minshew, Isaac Samalu to a 3-year, $30.5 million deal, and Kendrick Bourne to a 2-year, $10 million deal, as well as Tyler Algier to a 2-year, $12.5 million deal. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through these. The Rams, they just done a lot of re-signing. Tyler Higbee re-signed him to a 2-year deal. We talked about them trading, or maybe we didn't talk about it, but they traded for Trent McDuffie. Actually, we didn't. They traded for Trent McDuffie to the Chiefs for exchange for 2026 first round pick, a fifth round pick, and a sixth round pick, as well as a 2027 third round pick. Then they signed McDuffie to a 4-year, $124 million extension. What else did they do? Well, they got his buddy from Kansas City as well. They signed Jalen Watson to a 3-year, $51 million deal with $34 million guaranteed. I thought that was two big moves for LA as their secondary struggled last year, and especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, these some of these teams they're they not doing too much. They're just probably feeling good about their year and maybe a couple things here and there, right? Two cornerbacks and just ready to get on the field, waiting for training camp, probably.
Yeah, and for the Seahawks Super Bowl champs, they lost a lot of guys, but that's the cost, right? You win, gonna lose a lot of
Yeah.
guys. However, they were able to keep a few guys. We signed Josh Jacobs to a 3-year, $24 million deal, and they re-signed Rashid Shaheed to a 3-year, $51 million contract. Finally, the Niners haven't made much big news, but they did sign Mike Evans to a 3-year deal. And so,
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of
they
news.
got their veteran receiver they're looking for.
They did. They did. So, a lot of news. Try to cover it all. I'm sorry, I'm kind of on a time restraint, so I kind of just went through it, but
Yeah.
really big, really big. However, moving on to the NBA weekly standings update. I'm just gonna zoom right through this. Pistons still lead the East. However, Celtics on their tail. Jason Tatum came back from his Achilles injury less than a year later. He's back in action. He's playing. They could potentially be the first seed. Knicks, third seed, 41 wins, 25 losses. Cavaliers are the fourth seed at 40 and 25. Raptors. Then there's a gap. Raptors are 36 wins. Then the Magic at the sixth seed. Heat at the seventh seed. And speaking of the Heat, Bam Adebayo just dropped 83 points. 83 points. Passed Kobe for the second most in a game behind Will Chamberlain. Now you might be asking, who do they play? Well, it's the same guy Jonathan Kuminga played well against, the Washington Wizards. The score was about like 150 to 120, but Bam, impressive. 83 points. What were your thoughts on that when you heard that?
Hey, name someone on the Wizards. How about that?
Good
You
question.
can't name. He had 43 field goals, 43 free throws. It was just attempts, I should say. 43 field goals, 43 field goals attempts. That's just wow, huge number. I mean, especially when you're passing Kobe Bryant, you're right under Wilt Chamberlain for the most points of all time. I mean, that's just wow. He had a field day.
It's just the most interesting player too. I mean, I never thought Bam Adebayo put up 83 points. I saw him at 79 points. And I thought the game was over, and then someone texted me saying he
Yeah.
passed Kobe. I was like, wow. But rounding off the East, we have the 76ers at the 8th seed, the Hawks at the ninth seed, and then the Hornets at the 10th seed. In the West, the Thunder and Spurs are the top two seeds. Timberwolves are the third seed. Rockets are the fourth seed. Fifth seed, oh my goodness, Rockets, Lakers, Nuggets, all at 39 wins. Those three will be battling for the fourth, fifth, and sixth seed. Suns, 37 wins, they're the seventh seed. Clippers move up to the eighth seed. Warriors drop down to the ninth seed, and the Blazers final round out the play-in at the 10th seed. And so we're getting close to the season. I think we got about 15 to 18 games left. So season's coming down to a I was gonna say dwindle. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's coming down to the wire for positionings. Obviously, the play-in tournament, and so it's just we got to see how teams perform. If any big injuries happen or whatnot. However, moving to the MLB, World Baseball Classic is not finishing up. However, the top two seeds of each bracket or each pool is finalizing. And right now, Team USA is down 6-0 against
Oh,
Team Italy. However, they do have runners on second and third with one out. But yeah, they are down 6-0. They are 3-0 so far in the World Baseball Classic, but they are losing bad to Team
down
Italy. And Team
down
Italy,
big. Yeah,
Team,
yeah.
Team Italy is pretty. They are pretty. What's the word? They're pretty underrated. They got some NFL. I mean, not NFL. They got some MLB players out there. Jacob Marcy, Michael Lorenzen right now is pitching. He's throwing a no hitter, and so Can the USA make a comeback? It is the sixth inning, so they're running out of outs, but yes, they could.
That would be an upset special today for baseball, huh?
Yeah, yeah, especially when you got powerhouses like the Dominican Republic, they've been unstoppable. Team in Japan, they've been unstoppable. Oh, I lied. I read that wrong. I might be behind. I must have not updated my thing. It is now 8-0, Team Italy. So not looking good for Team USA. But we'll keep you updated on the World Baseball Classic. They will still most likely move on to like the playoff or the knockout round. But that is all for baseball because there's not really much other news. However, to end us off, I'm a guy who's been getting into Formula One, and so I want to bring up Formula One because it's been the thing coming to the states. Obviously, Netflix has the series Drive to Survive on Netflix. I think everyone should watch it. What really got me to F1 though was the movie. I watched the movie. I thought that was an awesome movie. Then I got into the Netflix series. Then I started watching races, and the new season just started up in Melbourne, Australia. Mercedes looked like a powerhouse. They took 1-2 on first and second. George Russell, he ended up winning. He looking to be the favorite. But Ferrari, they're looking to be the one team to compete with them. And so that's just one thing I want to talk about. Formula One has been something that I've been getting into. I know a lot of people are getting into it. It's just it's not a new sport. It's been around for a long time, long, long time. But it's starting to expand over to the U.S. a little more.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit more popularity, right? I think, like you said, that movie and all the Netflix stuff, that's just going to gain some more and more attention, and yeah, some probably some well deserved, more publicity there for F1.
So I just want to bring that up because I know a lot of people are starting to tune into this. So it's gonna be interesting here. I'll probably keep updating as the season goes on. However, I know I just jam-packed a lot of information to you all, but thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, I'm on a time restraint, so I was trying to just get everything in, trying to get my thoughts and whatnot. But once again, thank you all for tuning in. I'd like to thank my co-host, my uncle, for joining me today. We get episodes out every Wednesday. I also get post outs. You could get my initial reaction to Maxx Crosby getting traded. I wasn't able to do since the news happened today that the trade got taken back. I wasn't able to do a post. I wasn't able to get my initial reaction because we did the episode, but that was crazy. So we also get post outs on TikTok and Instagram. Like I said, episodes every Wednesday. And one last time, thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, stay ready.